Today we are going to learn how to create a one-point perspective drawing with shapes and using a bunch of different tools. So I'll show you what you're going to need to get started. You will need something to draw with. I'm going to use some colored pencils so they show up a little bit better, but you could just use a pencil. You would also need an eraser because you are going to erase some of your lines. If you have a ruler, you would also need a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, you can find something with a straight edge. Like here's a clipboard. You could use your whiteboard or the edge of a notebook, whatever you can find. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first thing that we are going to do is we are going to create what we call a horizon line. So that'll be a straight horizontal line across the paper. That's your horizon line. That's essentially where your eye line is. To draw my horizon line, I am going to use a ruler. You don't have to, but this will be nice and straight, and then I know it will be like I want it. So I'm holding the ruler down firmly and drawing a horizontal line straight across my paper. You can put that anywhere you want. You could have your paper going vertically as well, as long as your line is horizontal across your paper for your horizon line. The next thing we're going to do is put a vanishing point on your horizon line, and that is going to be where your eye can see the farthest in the distance. You can put it wherever you want, just make a little mark or a dot for your vanishing point. The next thing I'm going to do is choose a spot anywhere on my paper and draw a shape. I'm going to draw a square to begin with, and like I said, you can put it anywhere you want on your paper. It's going to be up to you. It'll just be a little bit different angle depending on where you put it. So for a square, all four sides are the same. You could use a ruler if you want to. I'm just going to eyeball it and put in all four sides of my square. Now after this is drawn, what I'm going to do is put in some construction lines from each point or corner of my square and connect them to the vanishing point. These are called construction lines. This is where your ruler or your straight edge is going to come in handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pencil on one of my four corners so that my ruler can nudge up against it, and then angle my ruler until I get to the vanishing point. So I'm going to connect the corner to the vanishing point to find the vanishing point of my square, which will become a cube. I'm holding the ruler down firmly and drawing that line. And then I will do that with the other corners as well. So I line up my pencil on the point of my square and then connecting it from the edge to the vanishing point, and I will also do it down here. I could do it to my fourth corner, but my cube that I'm going to draw is not going to be transparent, and since it would intersect the middle of the square, I won't see it, so I'm going to skip that part. The next thing that I'm going to do is find kind of the edge or the termination of my cube, because it's not going to go all the way to the vanishing point. So here we have a vertical line. Vertical lines go straight up and down. And I need to make a parallel vertical line behind it to kind of create the back edge. So make sure that they are parallel. Let's take a look at what parallel means. Taking a look at this highlighted drawing, you can see that the arrows that I connected show the parallel lines where they stay on the same angle, but they are at a different distance apart. Now you will decide where the end of your cube is going to be. If it's a cube, it's going to be closer. If it's a rectangular prism, it's going to be farther away. Now you can use a ruler to mimic this line. So I just lined it up with my first vertical line and then kept the angle and scooted it back so that they are the same. And then I'm going to do this again, but now I'm going to do the top part of the square, which is now a horizontal line. So I'm going to repeat that, behind it so that I get the edge in the back of my cube. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my ruler horizontally to find that angle, and then I'm going to scoot it up to the edge of that vertical line that I just drew so that they line up, and then I'm going to draw a straight horizontal line to create the back part now of my cube. So you guys can start to see the whole thing kind of coming together. Now I'm going to go over these points here that were construction lines. They are the edges now of my cube, and then I would erase these construction lines so that I wouldn't see them as I keep drawing. Now you guys can try some more shapes if you would like to, and you could stop here if you just want to practice with squares and rectangles, but if you would like to try some other ones, then you can go ahead and try some different shapes. Remember, this part is optional. I'm going to try some other shapes here. So I'm going to do a circle, and you can pick any spot that you want. I'm kind of doing a ghost drawing of my circle first, and then when I feel like I have it down, then I press down to make the actual line of the shape. Now with circles, we don't have edges or points like we did with our square, so it becomes a little more tricky. So here's how we're going to work this out. We're going to take our ruler and line it up with the vanishing point first. And once we have that lined up, then we're going to scoot the ruler up until we get to the very edge of our circle. And that is how we are going to create our first construction line for our circle, from the edge of the circle to the vanishing point. And we're going to do the same thing one more time on the other side. So we find our vanishing point first with our ruler edge on the vanishing point, and we slowly bring it in until we get to the edge of our circle, and then we will connect those. And we just have to now make one parallel line for the back side of our circle, which will become a cylinder. So we had vertical parallel lines in our cube and horizontal ones, but this one is curved. So what I'm going to try to do is kind of find this curve by tracing over it and then scooting back down and then recreating it a little bit farther away so that we have the back side of our cylinder. So obviously it's shorter because we have a smaller space to work in, but it should be the same curve and it's parallel. So they go in the same direction. They will never intersect if they were to go on and on and on. Then I would darken those edges to create the cylinder, and then I would erase the lines from my vanishing point. Now let's try a triangle. And I apologize for drawing this off screen. I will move it up a little bit here in just a second. So I'm going to put a triangle on here, and you can put it anywhere you want on your paper. This triangle is going to make it a little bit easier because we have points now like we did with our square. So I'm going to line up the ruler to the vanishing point and to one of the edges of my triangle to get started, and I will create that line. So here we go. You can see now, right, I lined up point to the vanishing point and drew that line. I'm going to repeat that with each of my points. And this last one gets a little bit tricky because we can barely see it. It is there, but it's barely there. And now we just have to put in those parallel lines to create the back side of our triangle. So here's my first one. It's on an angle, so again we don't have horizontal or vertical, we have a diagonal line. And I'm going to take my ruler to find that angle, and then I'm just going to kind of push it back a little bit, keeping the angle. Don't let that angle move, and then draw that line within the construction lines. So it's parallel. And then this one's going to be pretty tricky because it's so close to the construction line. So I'm going to find that and then recreate it within those construction lines. And you can see it's taking me just a minute to figure that out because it is so close. So you barely see that back side of that triangle. Or I guess we would call this a tent now because it's a 3D shape. And then I would just go over my construction lines that become part of my 3D shape, and then I would erase those additional construction lines. So there you have it. If you guys want to try any other shapes, go for it. Just keep in mind that you are creating parallel lines behind your original shape so that you can show that 3D version or 3D-ness with that idea. Please have fun and can't wait to see what you've created.